kills were definitely flowing in way more for the defense for the Avengers than it was for the Legacy, but an opportunity to go ahead and prove that it was strictly because of the size, right? Hey, Legacy, you feel like your attack was not that good. It's time to prove it on the defense. Cyclone is up again right now. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that we've played, 4 games and we have not seen the attack side kind of find their footing yet.
Yeah.
Game number 5, is that going to be the one?
I don't know, man. It's pretty interesting too because I will say, like, traditionally speaking, the 2 matches we rolled are pretty defense heavy, right? We have Cyclone, which defense really strong on, and then you also have Cracked, and the defense is really strong on that as well because of the way it's designed. So generally speaking, it makes sense that defense is winning. But what I saw, I was looking back in our leaderboard. One thing I saw in there that was super interesting as well is that we're hyping up UTP. They were playing some really, really good warfare gameplay in the low side, getting Route Man getting paid, as it were, right? They're picking up a lot of people on the low side of the map, picking up anybody trying to flank, and really playing heroes for their team, winning 1v multiple situations. 3 out of 4 of their players were nearly at the bottom of the leaderboard, but all of those players had double-digit kills. That can't be the same on the attacking side. On the attacking side, there were like 15 of the players almost that were in single-digit kills. On the defensive side, only 3 players had single-digit kills. So it wasn't just some of our top players picking up a crazy amount of kills. Just overall, front to back, the defensive side, everybody put up way more kills and way more points. And so we'll see if that was a fluke, a defensive advantage, or maybe this Avengers team really is the Avengers. We'll see.
I mean, I love the fact that you go ahead and point that out, right? Because it seems like there was just a very big individual skill disparity, right? And, obviously, when you're on a team that's kind of rolling and doing well and you guys are winning the match, like, yeah, you can kind of argue that some of those kills are easier to pick up for sure, but not to that degree. So, yeah, maybe the Avengers just has that edge for sure. But, jumping into things here, Legacy, they've got a lot to prove if they want to keep that intact. Their legacy, indeed. Point A, we saw this one go down early. We'll have to see what the Avengers can do and see if they can pick it up maybe even faster.
Yeah, I like that. Well, again, if you haven't noticed, we have swapped, like we said. The Avengers were in green. They're now in red. All of our attackers in red. This is the team to watch. The defense, Legacy. Let's see if they can get their feet underneath them and try to stabilize back out. Again, this is about building chemistry, but you don't have a lot of time to do it. A single best of 3. This is a must-win game for the defense right now in order to tie things up and take it to game 3. As you can see, the value of Tempest on your screen. Me and 4 able to stay alive and pick up a couple kills, but trying to take care of this lower side of the map, the underground.
He's done a great job, actually, of establishing some control down here. And, yeah, I mean, Victory Unite, it's actually very, very tough because you can see how long it takes for your HP to regen, right? Once you kind of get into one of those fights, sometimes it feels like you're out of the fight for so long because it does take longer in this game. I mean, we were kind of seeing that right there for me and 4. But eventually it does go back to full HP and, hopefully maintain some of that control over the tunnel so that way eventually they can make use of that staircase out towards the A point. But, of course, we know how attack works here. One angle is not going to do it. You're going to need multitude of angles. And right now, I'm not really seeing much control for the attack side of things. They do have the air dominance right now. I have been seeing some helicopter kills come in as well as some jet presence. So they got that going for them.
Yeah, they got some basically shelling on the point with the jet, just throwing missiles downrange onto the point to try to clear an opening for the attackers on foot to try to push forward. Unfortunately, there's a barrel stuff for the side of the defense that pays off. But you're right, not really an opening yet. We'll see if they can maybe even find one on the low side here. You can see them all coming up from the shoreline. Actually playing for the flag now. Our first kind of foot in the door, first presence on the point, and great value over the top.
Yeah.
What a great call here from Owen to play the high side. And because they had so many bodies on the low side, everybody looking down to the coast, Owen was able to pick up like 5 or 6 there. That was wild.
You know what's crazy is I think one of the strategies that I've actually seen before in one of my matches, and when I saw it, I was amazed. I had never seen it before. You can have somebody kind of jump out of a helicopter and kind of parachute down and kind of, get this flank going on. I think that's what just happened. And a lot of the defenders were actually distracted a little bit on the back side of the point over there. And as soon as that happened, it looked like Owen started to get so much value on the front side of the point right there. So another one of those opportunities where, you know, some presence is kind of made from one of our teammates, and then boom, on the other side of things, it starts to kind of, you know, roll and snowball for the side of things. Although it feels like there's no defenders on the point, and I don't know why. It feels like A has taken forever to capture.
Yeah, slowly but surely getting it, and there it comes through. The attackers finally get it. They do it without losing much of anything. They're going to get all those lives back, have full lives going into the next point. This is where the opposition was thwarted. This is where the Avengers held the line. Last point was on point B, so this is a big one. And much like I was talking about in Cracked, it is a momentum-based game. Once you have the momentum on your feet, you have the momentum, the wind in your sails, if you will, you better push it all the way to the finish line. And so you're going to see the attackers swing at this point as fast as humanly possible and not let the defense get a true setup. It could be a very quick cap on B to go into the C points if they can find some room to work with, and especially if they can find these vehicles from the air.
As of right now, it seems like everything's kind of even to me, right? When the Avengers kind of defended, right, Legacy, or when the Avengers defended, yeah, Legacy kind of went into B. They had 180 tickets. They had the helicopter alive. They had a tank alive. I will say the Avengers do have that jet alive, which was not alive for Legacy when they were attempting to attack right here. So I do believe it looks a little healthier right now in terms of how everything is for the Avengers, but it can turn so quickly.
Yeah, look at this point, though. The attackers have fully... I mean, this is what I was talking about. When you've got the momentum, especially with the tank at your backside, you've got a jet helicopter in the air. They are getting onto this point ASAP, and the defense can't find any angle. The only angles they have right now are a tank destroyer in the back, which is getting peppered, by the way. I think maybe from the jet. I'm not sure. Yes, it looks like our jet is picking up a couple kills right now. Wow. This boat is their last hope of vehicle gameplay, and well, boats are good, but you can't drive that thing all the way onto the point. So you're going to sit there and watch it be captured. All of a sudden, the Avengers showing us that they can do it on defense. They can also do it on attack.
And I blinked, and you started to mention how they were all over the point. I was like, what? And they had 178 tickets when they started to take the point right there. So seemingly investing almost nothing at all. And as you can see right here, the Bear Squad trying their best to go ahead and get some lock-ons going to the helicopter and the jet. But the fact that they're both up in the sky is very, very worrisome. And as I say that, as we tune back into the troops on the ground, B has actually been reclaimed by the defenders right now, and they're making their little counter push, similar to how the Avengers did it on the defensive side.
Yeah, it was just in the nick of time, too. They went through the low side, were able to get enough bodies on the point to stagnate that timer or that meter from closing all the way, and then they just were able to outswarm and have more people on the point to retake it all the way back to neutral. Now, it is going to be somewhat stalemated right around neutral now as the attackers find their way. They start pulling on the proverbial tug of war, if you will, but this one is over a single point, so it's going to be a much more aggressive fight. And we'll certainly end up with somebody on the ground as we move into C, as finally some vehicles, yes, finding value, but also some vehicles getting blown up.
Oh, great two-piece here. Coming in, going for the third as well. Very, very close, but nonetheless, I think that was a stinger on the other side of things, so those revives are probably going to come in right now, and B is still not captured, although it looks very, very close. And as I say that, there it is. The final tick comes in, and yeah, this is looking very, very scary. The Avengers look good, right? When you kind of talk about how close this is to when we saw Legacy try to attack, it's really not close at all. I mean, the vehicle health for the Avengers right now is just way better. I mean, they've got the jet, the helicopter, and a tank alive going into C with full tickets. They look good.
Yeah, they look really good. I think C will be a decent, maybe not easy, but it'll be decently easy considering all of those advantages. And again, it's a momentum game. Swing on this point as fast as humanly possible. Get the bodies in there before they can set up. You're seeing some vehicles already finding some value, getting inside. So here we go. A fight above, a fight down below. As per the usual, you got to have some CQB guns. This one trying to be used at a little bit longer of a range. And said, okay, maybe I need to get a bit closer, or maybe let them get closer to me. UTP looking strong in the kill category, finding a couple. They finally get cut down.
All right, I've been convinced I might be copying the loadout later on. I think I've seen way too many kills with that MP7 Hipfire build to go ahead and disregard it anymore. But Yeah, C is going to be one of those points, right, where you talked about it earlier. Cyclone as a whole is going to have multiple layers. So you're going to be outside, you're going to be inside, you're going to be underground, and everything like that. C kind of feels like, to me, it has all three of those. So it'll be interesting to see how you kind of split up your 20 players on your team, right? What side of that do you want to defend or attack from?
That's right. We're seeing some revives come through. These are super valuable. Those tickets or lives will be counted for their overall tally, so they've only used 14 going into this point. Saw a couple line up for him, but unfortunately there's another one in the corner flanking. So a tank goes indoors to try to clear things out. I like this play from the attackers. They are slowly but surely commanding and taking space on the map, using these vehicles to open things up, and you can see it in the kill feed there. Looks like, I think it's Swell is up in the plane still, finding some value on the ground.
It seems like they've completely cut off the respawn kind of choke point here with the tank. The presence is going to be too much, right? The defenders cannot get towards the point right now. And, you know, as I say that, it looked like the defenders were going to kind of get a pretty strong foothold over the point. And no, they are actually gaining on it right now. So they are making good work. I mean, goes 160 tickets. Like,
yeah,
it's happening fast.
It's happening fast, and it's happening very cleanly for the Avengers. This really does look like they prepped. Again, teams were created about a day ago when all things were said and done. The draft finished up. Everybody knew who was on whose team. Maps were given out. They've had a little bit of time to prepare, but not a lot of time. Because of that, putting on a masterclass of what looks like a masterclass of execution on the side of the Avengers. I'm not sure if it's a misstep by Legacy or if it's more so a credit to the Avengers and what they've been able to put together. But either way you look at it, the Avengers are the better team. Again, to re-explain this, they've already done enough, and they also 2 tanks on the point. Yeah, it makes sense that they captured it. C goes inside of the Avengers. To explain, though, they've already done enough to be priority selection. They are priority pickers going into round 3 if there is a game 3. But to go to a game 3, Legacy's got to win the map. And unfortunately, with moments like that, can't get a tank down. This is not looking good for Legacy.
Yeah, tough break. I mean, when you're the engineer of the team and you're kind of shooting your rocket and it feels like, you know, you shoot at one tank and then another one kind of comes around the corner. You're like, man, what can I do, right? It also requires a lot of coordination because when there is 2 tanks, you can't just call out, hey, you know, destroy the tank. It's like, well, all right, I'll shoot at this tank. And then if your other engineer shoots at the other tank and you're kind of splitting up the investment of the rockets, then yeah, they're just not going to be as powerful than if they were invested onto the same tank. So the momentum is definitely steaming and rolling right now for the Avengers. But again, on Cyclone, we're actually going to be entering our first double objective sector right now, D1 and D2. All the previous points have only featured one singular flag, so maybe that's going to be the difference, right? Maybe the Legacy team is a little bit better at splitting up their resources between points and playing that tug-of-war game that we saw before. You know, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Hey, look, we saw the same thing Squirtle Squad. We were kind of clowning on them as well, and they were able to clutch it up. All you got to do is win the map, and you still got a chance going into game 3. Winning these maps on the attacking side is quite difficult. Now, these are the points I was talking about. You basically have 2 separate points that are not adjacent to each other, but across from each other on opposite sides of this interior water canal. It is really, really cool stuff. And so you'll see the ships. You actually saw the defensive ship play kind of in between these 2 points with the kind of commanding the canal. Almost died for it, had to back up and regain. But either way you look at it, very cool setup in the way you play this. Again, will probably be a tug of war. It looks like the attackers are going for D2 first. The defense quickly realize it because they're on D1 and there's only a couple bodies here. So we've got to take a look at D2, see if we can take it back. So far, they're able to hold on for a moment as tanks and many of the other vehicles are trying to figure out how do we even get involved in a lot more CQB on these points.
Yeah, obviously, you know, we're kind of paying attention to how much progress is being made if we're on D2 at the top of the screen right now, but we're tuning in with Owen right now. We've seen some incredible plays from him before, and that's going to be followed up with that one right now. The flank kind of coming in, establishing control over top of the giant room that overlooks D1 right now, and off of that single individual play, right, taking out 3 defenders in some of the key spots to actually go ahead and defend this point, right? very, very good from Owen right there. So D1 is definitely going to be favored towards the attackers as it currently stands. We'll have to see if Legacy can kind of pull in one of those, pushes back towards the point right now.
Yeah. A little bit of blood on D2. Everybody swung back to D1. The classic gameplay loop. It's just a matter of who wins the game of tug of war. Defense, they've set up pretty nicely on D2 from what we can tell. Playing kind of the backside here. Again, this is going to give them a lot of room to work, to move up as a unit rather than being all scattered about and just losing a series of 1v1s. So D1 officially lost if you're the defensive side. You can come in here and either play sneaky, trade it back if the attackers swing over to D2, or just set up a true line of defense. But the attackers have a couple tanks outside that really aren't getting a ton of value. You'd like to keep them for later rounds. They're going to pick up any stragglers that try to go around the buildings, but not going to get nearly as much value the last couple points. And it's probably one of the reasons the defense is actually able to hold decently well here on these 2 points.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? The vehicles, we mentioned it, they were such a big part of the pushes for A, B, and C objectives, but now their impact has definitely dwindled. The fact that these points are, buried within these buildings, and you can't drive those vehicles in here. And yeah, that being said, right, the defense does seemingly make a successful push on to D1. So obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done, but the question kind of comes in and goes, when do the tanks potentially be surrendered, right? When do you kind of need that extra manpower on one of these points?
Yeah, I mean, what they are doing is you're seeing them pop up on the kill feed every once in a while. What they are doing is they are kind of cutting off a path that the defense can take to move around some of these points. And so at least you know that you have control of an area. Certainly not as valuable of an area as you had on some of the other points of the tanks. So I think you hold on to them, but even still, you're right. It is certainly an issue. And I'm also getting word from production that, yes, the jet is... You haven't seen the jet probably pop in the kill feed more than maybe once. The jet's doing the same. The jet's still outside.
Really?
Just saying, all right, good luck, guys. Hope you get it. Now,
wow.
As the lives dwindle, I'm sure they're going to make some judgment calls of like, hey, even that one extra person could make a difference here. Yes, you guys are cutting something off, but yeah, interesting play from the attackers. Just trying to hold these vehicles on for the next point.
Yeah, I mean, that's 3 people that are kind of outside, and you would kind of argue, yeah, I get what you're saying with the whole, yeah, let's control an area. You would imagine that one of those vehicles could do that, right? So
yeah, sure.
Maybe, I think there's a pretty good argument that at least 2 of those vehicles that are being held on may be wasted out there because kind of overlapping those vehicles, controlling the same spot when they could definitely do it themselves. But still 109 tickets for the attackers to kind of work with right now. We'll have to see if they can change anything up right now because, we've seen them make progress onto one of the points, but both times, D2 being recaptured right now by the defense, they've been pushed off of it. So they cannot establish a foothold permanently onto either of the points right now. Ooh, great spot.
Yeah, I like this spot a lot. Throw the drill charge, nice.
Well,
never mind. Hey, it's chaos, baby. It's warfare. It's all good. Still up. Still able to make some plays. And able to get a couple revives here. Nice play with the Stinger, but overall, they are holding this point, and you've got an urgent deployment time going down right now. I would assume this is the defensive side doing this to make sure they maintain control. Nice take here.
Yeah, D1 going to be taken. Well, I have to say the attack side can hold it because they have had it before. And is that they're gonna be,
they've got the tanks in the water? They just said, all right, fine, we'll come help. We're going to put the tanks at the bottom of the water so that maybe we can try to come back to these later and nobody else can get them. That's funny.
That's very, very smart. I'm happy to see that they did that, right? Because that one makes us kind of look smart because we were kind of talking about how whether or not they should ditch those things and get on the dang point. But 2, also a kind of cool way to actually go ahead and abandon them right now. But still a lot of work to be done. We'll have to see if the push can come in. 2 extra players going to be joining the attack now for the attack side at least. Who knows if the jet is kind of still flying around. But a lot of work to be done.
That's right. Tug of war in action. Neo looking like Neo on the map. I mean, the amount of times this guy's gone to 1 HP and stayed alive is pretty impressive. And finally, well, unfortunately, sorry, dude. I started talking about you, and that means you're going to die, but The squad maintaining the same position up on this kind of overlook. I was gonna say catacombs. It's not really catacombs. It's more of a catwalk. That's the word I'm looking for. I like this overlook position. If you're able to maintain control of it, both teams want it though.
That was a huge kill from Wag right there. Blood King was about to get like 3 revives off.
Yeah.
And Wag actually dove into the smoke and made sure those did not happen. So that's going to be a swing of like 4 tickets actually against the offense right there, simply based on what Wag just did. Those little small impact plays right there definitely going to be the difference right now. And as you can see right there, that's just going to swing things over, right? They're going to have control over the top of D1 and potentially go ahead and make things worse for the attacking side very, very quickly.
Yeah, again, this position is so powerful. So you're right, not only preventing the revives, but also taking over a powerful position, just winning the gunfights. I've seen these guys win a bunch of tournaments. They are Delta Force Global League champions in the past under a different full roster. They've changed out a couple people, changed a couple names, but Rasta, Wag, and Snarf have been playing together for a very long time, at the very least. I'm sure their fourth is doing a lot of work as well, and they're finding a ton of value on the catwalk.
Yeah, 50 tickets left to work with right now. We are seeing progress towards D2, and that's actually going pretty fast. And the attackers finally get some value in terms of vehicles. I can see the boat kind of going through the waterway that is in between the points right now. So they're trying to pick up some of the kills with that. And oh my gosh, I look top right. Somebody is in the jet. Somebody just got a kill with the jet. They're still flying around out there.
It took them another 5 minutes, but they got another one. I like it.
Jeez.
Again, like if the attackers are able to do it, if the attackers are actually able to execute, then it's worth staying in those vehicles. You can keep them for the next point, but it's a lot of what ifs in a 20v20 matchup. You make it 20v19, 20v18.
Ooh.
It doesn't sound like a major number, but it certainly can make a difference on these points. But the attackers, they've got a push going, and this could be one of their last if they're not careful. Technically trying to play for both right now. D2 in jeopardy. D1 easily being given. This is the moment the attackers need. They cap D1. Now they're going to sprint for D2 and try to execute. It's got to be close, and it is. They get it. Avengers thwarted for a little while, but finally able to capture both points and move on their merry way. It's one of the last few. This is going to be a tough one, and we'll see if maybe holding on to the jet makes a difference going into the next point.
I love the adjustment from the Avengers. Obviously, we did see we were trying to be extremely greedy, keep up all of their vehicles at the same exact time. Ended up sacrificing 2 tanks for that. They still have the jet, and as you can see, like Goj was saying, if they can get through D and maintain the jet, it's going to have some impact. And instantly out of the gates, the boat is down for the defenders. He's got to be so mad. He's going to be like, what do you mean you're still in the jet?
That's 100%. And also, shout out to the patience from our jet operator. I mean, it's just so fun to use. Maybe that's why, rather than like a strategic play. But either way you look at it, this is what I was talking about. This is what the nature of this map that is so interesting is the progression of points. You're seeing a ton of kills go on both sides right now. But the progression of points going from out in the open to more interior to only interior to back out in the open. If you were able to hold on to your vehicles in those moments where you weren't that helpful, all of a sudden, you're about to be massively impactful going into the last points, E1 and E2.
You know, I can't lie. Obviously, things are looking good right now for the Avengers. Obviously, the vehicles, they're doing good on that front and everything like that. But man, it is a rough transition from the D objectives to the E objectives. I think they only got back like 40, 50 tickets. They're at 80 tickets right now to go ahead and pick up 2 objectives. And as I say that, they actually start working on both of them at the same exact time.
Yeah, this is one of those strategies that is a little bit more high risk, but it has to be just because they only have 80 tickets. They need to attack both points at the same time, and you have 2 things that can happen. Either the defense says, okay, we got to hold at least one of these. There's enough lives that we're going to all mass up on E2 and take it back and give E1. That's a big win for the attackers. Or the defense also splits their forces, goes to protect both, and either loses that or wins that. If the defense wins that, that might be the end of this game. I don't know if the attackers are going to be able to regain and re-push, especially if they lose vehicles in that transition. So it is a little bit more high risk. It seems to be working for them, though. They're winning both points. The defense seems scattered, uncoordinated, and all of a sudden, they're losing both points at the same time as they move into the neutral category, and finally are getting a bit of footing.
I mean, yeah, it's got to feel very, very hard for the defensive side of things right now. We kind of got the shot of the tank sitting up on the hill outside of E2, literally just shooting in missiles all the time. And you know, as we say that, it looked very, very good for the attacking side of things. The kills are actually being found by the defense right now. 20 tickets are going to be down. Rasta can't pick up the final shot needed to go ahead, and the wraparound finally is going to be able to finalize that one right there. And what a big swing. E1, E2 back in almost full control of the defense, and now 55 tickets, right? We blinked and 20 tickets disappeared.
Rasta was putting the team on his back there. Good grief. I knew that team was strong. I knew that squad was talented, but I mean, he picked up, I want to say that was 6 or 7 kills off of a single life on top of E2. It was almost single-handedly preventing the attackers from finding any footing on E2. Finally, they do. Here's a nice push from the attackers. They lose their 1 or 2 in transition with a couple of these artillery barrages that are coming down, but they're able to maintain control over E2. They should take it into the neutral category. Ooh, but you're right. 50 lives and counting. We are running out of runway here.
Yeah, Wag's actually finding so much value from the barrage right now. So just a whack-a-mole game if you're the attackers right now. Try to dodge the random missiles kind of barraging down onto the point right now, but it seemingly is going to be in full control of the attack side.
I saw the jet fall out of the sky. Jet finally dead. I saw the body of the jet just hit the water there and explode. So jet finally out of the sky. Maybe a bit of breathing room for the defense. Maybe on E1. I'm not sure if it was somebody grabbing an AA gun and shooting it out of the sky. There is one over here. We saw it very briefly. Or if maybe just well-timed AT-4 missiles or something in between. We'll see. But either way you look at it, that's a win for the defense, and they are winning back, it looks like, E2. And we've got our first guided missile coming in. This map has gone on long enough. The first one of the NA semifinals. We'll see where it lands. And I want to say it was called in by our defensive side. Oh, no. That is a bummer. That was an offensive missile onto a defensive tank. See ya later, buddy.
Oh, man. I believe the guided missile was actually called in, of course, by the attack side, and I think it was the jet operator that actually called that in.
Oh, yeah.
Saving those points up for the entire game, and after being shot out of the sky, was finally able to go ahead and call that one in. But yeah, that guided missile maybe giving them some momentum, right? E2 now being taken, but E1 still being defended.
Yeah, what a turn of tides, too. I mean, that was so... sometimes when you call those guided missiles, it looks like we got a couple more coming. There's going to be a string of them as well. Usually commanders will call these in because they're the ones getting a lot of points for their team. But also, yeah, anybody that's going on big kill streaks. Here's another guided missile going to land on the point or outside the point over here on E1. And it doesn't find any kills in the kill feed. Now, usually these guided missiles, yes, we count them as like a huge win if you see like 15 people get killed by one or whatever. But the value of using a guided missile to kill a vehicle, if you can somehow manage that, even just pushing people off the point for a moment. If you're an attacker and you're on a point and they've got a chance to win the game here very soon, just a guided missile to force them off for a moment, even without a kill, a problem as we see more tank battles.
Huge win for the defensive side of things right there. They're going to take out the offensive tank that has been raining down on E2. That tank that was sitting up on the hill finally decided to come down, and as soon as it did, it got blown up. So now it's going to be a big fight over E2. You would imagine that both sides start to invest everything over towards E2. 10 tickets remaining for the offensive side.
Gosh.
The defense has to know that they're going to throw everything they possibly can at this. Somebody's probably going to sneak over to E1 on the defensive side of things with a guided missile. Which side called it in?
This could win or lose the game depending on where it lands and what value it finds.
Artillery barrage incoming.
Nothing.
Ooh, wow.
Looks like it was called in by the attackers, and it tried to just force people off of E2, and that's what I was talking about. You're not going to find the kills on E2, but you do force the defense off the point, which means you're in control. You could force this into overtime. If you don't capture this, you still have a chance to win. This is for the win. If the Avengers capture both points, the Avengers win Group B, and the Avengers go to the finals. Last stand for Legacy.
Yeah, but take a look at it, right? You have the Viren right now in front of him. We can see it. He can. There's so many green players running over towards E1. Right, we kind of talked about it. E2, everybody's going to run towards that because that's where they needed to go ahead and capture it. Everybody on the defensive side, they just ran right over to E1. There's nothing over here for the attack side of things. This could be a very easy take for them. But as I say that, the full swing comes in from the attack
We're
side.
winning the
Great
gunfights.
on them to go ahead and realize that. An incredible play right there to pick up a couple kills.
5 lives, but the attackers have full control.
Oh my gosh.
A blink of an eye, and this
my gosh.
map has turned on its head. The Avengers are your champions of Group B. Vivid, you're a genius. We have our first attacking victory in the North American semi-finals. The Avengers go 2-0. The Avengers move on to the finals.
What a way to close out the map right there. 5 tickets remaining. It looked like the defense have played the tug of war perfectly right towards the end of the match, but no, the individual